Good morning, everyone. This is Teresa. Welcome to Power Ridge Homestead. Today I'm going to be making bread and buns. This is the quickest and easiest way to make bread and buns. It's one recipe does all. It takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients. That's it to make bread, and that's normal. So it all just depends on the measurements that you use and what you've got. So what we want to do first, I've already heated up the milk to 95 degrees. I'm using milk. You can use water. Just make sure that it's warm water. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of yeast. And I don't have any honey. You can use honey instead. But I'm just going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar. And then I just want to give that a stir. I'll just give that a stir, and then you want to let it sit for 5 minutes and bubble away. Now 2 tablespoons might seem like a lot, but it's not, and you'll see when we're done here, because we're actually going to be making a couple loaves of bread. Well, a couple loaves of bread and a bunch of buns. So we'll let that bubble, and it's already starting. You want to make sure that the water or the whatever liquid you're using is warm, so that it doesn't destroy the yeast. I'm going to put my yeast back in my fridge. That's where I keep the bottle that's in use. If I'm not using it, it's actually in the freezer. So see how that's already starting to bubble? It's going to eat all the sugars that are in the milk. So what we want here is we want 5.5 cups of flour. You can use a variety of flour if you want, white or whole wheat. I find if I use whole wheat, I'm going to use a mixture of whole wheat and white, and it's usually more white than whole wheat, because I find that whole wheat is very heavy. So you want to take out your flour, just level it. So this is a 1.5 cup measure, so that's 3 already. And then 1 more for 5. This back, and then I want to do 2 tablespoons of butter, which I just happen to have 2 tablespoons butter left, and then we're going to put in about a tablespoon of salt. Now I am using salted butter, so you don't need as much salt. And see how this is going? We're going to give this a minute, and then we'll get it into the mixer. And then we'll get started on it. So let's wait for 5 minutes. There we go. All nice and bubbly. Look at that. That's amazing. I don't know if you can see that very well. There we go. We got bubble on top. So we're going to add this to our flour mix. And then what I'm also going to add, because I have extra, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. If you have extra eggs like I do, I'm just going to add 2 eggs to the mixture. Bring up our spinner, and then I'm just going to start this on low. Just let it get incorporated. Clean up here. The eggs will give it a nice, more protein for the bread as well, and a really nice yellow texture. So I'm just going to speed this up a bit. Very loud. And we're going to let that go for 8 minutes to knead. We're not going to have to touch it with our hands, which is fantastic because I hate kneading with my hands. So we'll let this knead away, and then we'll come back in about 8 minutes. Okay, so that's been going for about 8 minutes now. So I'll take it out of the bowl here. Now, if you don't have a proofing basket, you can just use an oiled bowl and cover it. So you want the texture of your bread not to be sticky. So the flour itself is not sticky. Or the dough, sorry. we're just going to throw that in there. We've already got some flour on the bottom, so it shouldn't stick, and it wouldn't anyways with it being a proofing basket. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this on the counter for about 20-30 minutes. Doesn't matter which. I'm going to cover it, let it sit and warm, and it'll rise, and it should double in size. So we'll see you in 20 minutes. All right, so there we go, half an hour. I set a timer on Google. Came back. So it's doubled in size, as you can see. So now we're just going to take this and we're just going to dump it out of the box. Sorry, the cooking bowl. Now I want to split this. This is enough for 2 loaves of bread. So we're just going to split it. Because I'm going to make bread and buns. Some spray. Some spray. Okay, now we want to flatten this down. So I just spread it out, flatten it like that, and then you can fold and fold, and then give it a roll. Okay, shape it up back into your loaf, into your pan it goes. That's it. Then we're going to let that sit for 45 minutes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually make some buns. So we'll just split this up evenly, sort of. We're going to make smaller buns. I could put parchment paper down on this as well. I'm just going to give it a spray. So now we want to just make our buns. So just take them and squish them. Just curl them under on the back. And then this is another one you can just roll them till they get a nice taut top. So you're going to flatten them as you roll them back. Tuck it in. What you're aiming for is to have all of the taut top. So you can leave it like that. They're going to raise a little bit. So flatten it. And then there. And then we got one big one. So flatten it. Actually, I'll make a, let's see what I can do here. I'm going to do a little loafy. There we go. I'm going to move this one over here a little bit. And there we go. So we have 6 buns. Well, 5 buns and a little loaf it's going to be. And then the loaf of bread. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover these up again. And we are going to let them sit for probably about another 45 minutes. And then they can go into the oven. So don't forget, you can do, we might actually put an egg wash on the buns when we're done and before we put them in the oven. Wait and see. Okay, so here we go, 45 minutes later. So I'm going to just mix up the egg. There we go. Nice. It rose nicely. So I'm going to leave the loaf as is. But I'm going to put some egg wash on the buns. And then you'll see the difference when they come out of the oven as to what they look like. Okay, so there we go. So I'll put this in the oven, 375 for 30 minutes. So 30 minutes and we'll be back. Okay, so I took the buns out a couple minutes early because they are smaller in stature than the loaf of bread, of course. But look at that lovely color because of the egg wash. They're perfect. They've swelled up nicely. They're very hot, of course, because they've just come out of the oven. So we'll give them a couple minutes to cool off, and we'll give the loaf of bread, still has a couple minutes in the oven, and then we'll go from there. And there we have the loaf of bread done as well. So what I always like to do first is just take it out, check the bottom, make sure it's nice and toasty, give it a little bit of a tap, and if it's got a hollow sound, you're good to go. So these have to sit on the counter until they cool off. No cutting into them while they're hot, especially the loaf of bread. What you can do at this point is leave it and it will get a crust, harder crust on the outside. Or if you want to rub some butter over top of it, it'll stay soft. Won't be a hard crust, but we like a hard crust on here, so we're good to go for now. So let's let this stuff cool off, and then I'll bring you back. All right, so that's been enough time. I'm going to leave the loaf. I'm not going to bother cutting it right now for dinner, but I have a bun here. The bottom's nice. There we go. Perfect. I love the smell of fresh bread. So again, you can let these cool and then slice them up. Make sure that when you're doing your loaf of bread though, if you're not going to eat it right away, put it in a bag and then it will retain some of the moisture. It won't go dry on the end. But give it a try. It's easy, as you can see, with KitchenAid. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.